Yeah. The killed off Patrick Dempsey. Gua sha. Ooh, I sobbed for hours. Hate Jeff Bezos, don't buy off Amazon. Now let's get started.
It's been an hour. Hello and welcome to Uphill From Here.
This is Catherine.
And this is Amy. And it's been a while.
I say this. Whenever we take a week off, it's literally only 2 weeks, but it feels like ages. And we need
It feels like so long.
Change of scenery. Look at this. New background. Catherine's moved. How exciting.
Woo-hoo.
I'm still here in lockdown.
Yep. And I'm just working. That's all I do with my life now. Because hashtag tier 3 life.
Yeah. It's pretty tough, this new system and the lockdown, but this is nice. We get to spend an hour together each week, just chilling, checking in on each other, checking in on you. So we hope you're okay. We're sending lots of love.
We hope we're all okay.
So who's first this week?
We haven't even introduced the topic yet.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. So Catherine, what's our word of the week this week?
Our word of the week this week is lessons.
Lessons. Okay, yeah, so I'm excited for this one. This is something a bit different. I'm excited to see what our take on lessons is. And hear from us later on. So who is first? So Catherine's written. To those learning to appreciate the small things. When I think of the word lessons, of course my mind naturally jumps to sitting in school and times tables, teachers and subjects. When I think further into it, I think about the small things. We've all heard the saying, you learn something new every day, right? It's not just an old wives' tale, we do. When we live our lives, we are always learning lessons, and sometimes the hard way. We learn new things at work every day, even if we've done a job for years. We learn new things about the people that we love every day. We learn new things about ourselves as we grow older. We learn lessons from every friendship that we have and every relationship. I think what I would like to say is that we have lessons in our everyday life, and if you ever have a time when you feel like you're not achieving anything or that you've not been productive, take some time to think about your day and find the small things that you have learned. It might be a small fact or something you didn't know about your friend or something new that you have to do at work. Every time we do something new, we learn lessons. A new trip teaches us about the scope of our independence. A heartbreak teaches us to be resilient and to stand on our own 2 feet. Trying a new food teaches about flavours and what we like and dislike. Look for the small lessons in the everyday. Love, Cat, still trying to find the small lessons in every day. Love it. Yeah. I think it's really important. I think you made a really good point there. I really like it.
Thanks. I feel like a lot of my letters have been about looking for the small things. I feel like there's a bit of a theme. I think that's always my approach.
And I feel like it's good in the context of 2020 because we've all had to look for something positive out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which leads me on to my first question. Look at me being a professional with my segues. And my first question, actually, you talked about kind of finding things out about yourself, which I really appreciate, self-exploration, awareness is good. So I want to know one thing you've learned about yourself this year.
Probably that in life I don't want to be too far away from home, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to stay in my own little village, but I am far more content knowing that I am closer to home than I've ever been before.
Yeah.
I think I've learned that.
It's nice that you recognise. I think a lot of people have had to spend a lot of time at home with loved ones, and they've learned to really appreciate home and learn to prioritise that. And I think for you thinking that that's strange and you being reluctant to say that, I think maybe a lot of people, especially maybe people that have left uni or that are our age, feel weird saying it. But I know plenty of people who don't want to move country or move far away, and that's fine. You don't have to. And it's interesting because little spoiler alert, I also like mention about like lessons at school, because when you think of lessons you do think of like what you're taught in school. So I kind of touched on that as well, so I thought that was interesting that you'd mentioned that. And I wondered, do you think any of the lessons you actually learn in school are worthwhile?
It depends what lessons.
Because I got like an A in Spanish, like I said, and I don't know a word of Spanish.
I did my maths exam. I learned that when I put my mind to it, I can do it. And it also taught me that you can accept help
Mm.
for things. Because I had a maths tutor to pass my GCSE maths.
Mm.
That's what I needed. And I passed. I got a B, which I never thought I would get. And I think, you know, my drama and dance classes is where I learned most of what I know now and most of who I am as a person. And it also taught me, and I know this sounds funny because I never said I'd teach, but when I have been in kind of a teaching role of like when I was a facilitator and even now, it's taught me my method of teaching, because I learned from the teachers that I got on with and I liked, and I learned that and how that worked. So I do think some of them are valuable, but I don't think they're necessarily valuable in the way that you think they're going to be.
Yeah, I feel like in school it's all like jumping through hoops and meeting certain criteria that you have to meet, and like I feel like exams are just memory tests. Like some people test well and some people don't, but that's not a reflection on like how good you are at a subject or how intelligent you are.
So like you say, you know, exams are nothing to do with how intelligent you are and how much you know and have learned. It's to do with how much can you remember in a short space of time.
It's rubbish. I think like in school and education, like it's less about the skills you learn and more about learning about yourself and learning about how you learn, if that makes sense. Like knowing what works for you is how you're going to get through.
Yeah.
Is that right?
And I think you learn that all the way through education. I think I learned that at uni as well.
Yeah.
That, you know, I can't read a book in a short amount of time. When there used to be like reading deadlines at uni and stuff for like plays, I'd never read it. I could start on the day that they gave me the assignment and I wouldn't have finished it by the time it needed to be read for, because I can't read that fast. So, you know, I learned that about myself through education.
And I think that's what's great when you step up to uni, especially in like your third year, where like it's less about like we need you to do this. It's you kind of like choose what you want to specialize in, and like you want to know more about that. So you choose like you say, maybe like articles, books that interest you. And it's not someone telling you read this text by this date, because then you're like, I don't want to. It's you really do want to do your research. And I think that's what I loved about third year, was that you could use methods that worked for you and research subjects that interest you and could benefit your career. And I love that freedom, because it makes you actually want to do the work more. So I think it's a really important point you made about how we should never stop learning, and that doesn't end in school. Like we need to learn something every day. I just wondered, like, because I think some people maybe at a certain age or like stage in your life, they might feel like they don't want to learn anymore or they can't learn anymore, like there's nothing more they can do. So what do you think you would say to someone with that kind of viewpoint? Like they don't want to learn anymore.
Get on with it.
Welcome to our advice corner. Get on with it.
I don't know, because I do think you do hit a point where you go, oh, I don't really know anything that I want to learn anymore. Okay, if you can't learn anything else or you don't want to learn anything else, then impart your wisdom on others about things.
True.
Learn to teach people.
I feel like you learn in that way as well. I feel like whenever I've worked with like maybe younger people or like teaching, mentoring, you learn a lot, not about yourself, but like about other people. And like it gives you a bit of perspective. I think you can learn a lot from other people if you just listen.
But, you know, okay, if you can't learn anymore, take a look at whether you're actually imparting wisdom on people or whether you're just shutting people down because they don't know something yet.
Yeah. You feel like superior to them because you feel like you know more, where actually they just know something different and they just have a different way of doing things, and you can learn from that if you're open to it.
And therefore, put your time into teaching them something. I do think sometimes that lessons and teaching and helping people learn is an attitude thing. of the way that people look at it and the way that people treat people who don't know as much as they do.
Exactly. Impart your wisdom, but don't be patronizing about it. Yeah.
Amy has said, I've been thinking for a while now about the toughest lesson I've ever had to learn. As children, we learn some of the most important lessons. We learn to walk, we learn to communicate, we learn manners, to count, to read, our times tables. All these things we take with us for the rest of our lives. But there are some lessons that we don't fully understand until we are much older. When I was a child, I remember asking a lot of questions. I would ask for a lot of things. I would ask why not when I was told no. But that's not fair, I'd say. And my mum would reply, life's not fair, Amy. This would frustrate me to no end, and these confrontations would usually end in a tantrum from my end. It wasn't until I was much older that the solemn truth of those words really resonated with me. Life's not fair. A tough lesson for a 5-year-old, an even tougher lesson for a 22-year-old. It isn't a lesson that is easy to learn, but it is a truth we all must accept in order to be at peace with our lives. Life can be a lot of things. It can be beautiful, surprising, challenging, confusing at times. But one thing it never ever promised to be was fair. Life owes you nothing. What we all must learn is not to be frustrated by those words. Life's not fair. We must challenge what is unjust and make change where we can, but accept that some things are just simply out of our control. Love. I really like that. I like the idea that, you know, from a young age you were told life's not fair, but you kind of still had to learn that the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like your mum might have said those words from a young age, but you still had to find that out for yourself.
Yeah. I just remember seeing it. Like, she would just, she'd always be like, I'd be like, that's not fair. And she'd be like, well, life's not fair. And I'd be like, oh, that was just a rubbish response. But now I totally get it. Like, you have to learn that the hard way. Life isn't fair. You don't always get what you want. And now, finally, I understand. Like, it takes a lot of, like, I think when you grow up to this kind of age, you start to realize that your parents were right about a lot of things. But you just don't take it in when you're like 5 and having a tantrum because you want like a Polly Pocket.
As I said in our mother episode, oh my God, my mother was right about everything. I think that kind of brings me on to like my first question. Nice little segue.
Look at that.
First question is, did you have a turning point where you realised that life isn't fair? Is there like a specific defining moment, do you think, where you found that out for yourself?
I think after graduation.
Ooh, okay.
I think, you work really hard for something and you try and be a really good person and do all the right things. And I think sometimes, we've talked about this before, when you leave uni, you think life owes you. You think, oh, I've slaved away for 18 years in education, I've done this degree, I've got a really good grade, I've worked really hard, so I deserve to do well now. And life's not like that. Like, you don't just go out and be like, well, I deserve it, so it needs to happen. It doesn't work like that. And it's the same with like your career, but it's the same in like personal relationships. Like, you can be like a super nice person and really generous with your time and be really like forgiving and really patient and really lovely to someone, and they can treat you like utter shit. And I just they don't owe you the same things, like, and people won't. Like, you can be the nicest person ever and shit can still happen to you. So it's like, that's life, unfortunately. And it's just a bit crap sometimes. It's like, especially this year, I feel like this year's been a big turning point in me realising that like, things aren't fair. Like, people have missed out on government support, people are out of work, and there's just nothing they can do, and it's just not fair. But that's life. Like, that's the way it's happened.
Do you think then the fact that life isn't fair makes you appreciate it when something really good happens?
Yeah, because I know I've worked for it. It's not luck. It's not suddenly lucky that I've got that job. It's because I've worked hard and other people have seen that I'm good at my job to recommend me. And it's not lucky. I'm not lucky to have got these jobs or to be where I am, whatever. It's hard work. I think, if the odds are all against you and you've gone through so many job rejections, it's so refreshing when you're like, oh, life's actually going my way for a change. This is nice. This is a nice surprise. Yeah.
What would you tell that 5-year-old self that you talk about in your letter now?
Oh, I would have found her so annoying. Kind of cute though, but kind of annoying. Like, I get why parents like have grey hair. Like, imagine me but 5. I don't know. I feel like there's sometimes if someone's not willing to hear you, there's no point in saying anything. Like, if someone really isn't ready to learn something, you can teach them and teach them and teach them, and they're not going to take it in. Like, I could have gone to her and be like, look, Amy, you're 5, but I'm sorry, Santa's not real, and you're going to struggle to find work. You're going to get your heart broken. There's taxes, and you're never going to be able to retire, and you're never going to be able to afford to buy a house, and life is shit.
I know.
And a 5-year-old me would have gone, oh well. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
They can warn you. Your parents can warn you and warn you and warn you, and people can try and teach you things, but you just have to learn them yourself. That's just life. That's what life's for.
Yeah, I completely get you. I think sometimes things do fall on deaf ears, don't they? Like, even with like friendships, sometimes when somebody doesn't want to hear something, it's like, okay, then, well, I've given you the advice. If you're not going to listen to it, then I'll support you in whatever you choose. But
this sounds like you and me.
Have you got any tips for someone who still hasn't come to terms with the fact that life is hard and life isn't always fair?
I think maybe there's a slight optimism with that that's quite nice. But like we spoke about like last week, or maybe the week before, I don't know. We talked about how like sometimes being like overly positive can just be naivety. And it's just going to hurt in the long run if you go into life just expecting and just thinking, to quote another quote from Everybody's Talking About Jamie, one of my favorite lyrics, life doesn't owe you, you owe it. So like if you go out with that mindset, I know that's really cheesy and it's like a musical quote, whatever, but if you go out being like, I owe life, like I still owe life, that's maybe a better way to think about it. If you focus less on the results and more on you say what you're actually putting in and what you're bringing to the table, and try and make that as good as possible rather than worrying about the outcome.
As well, I think it's a very similar philosophy to like, you've got to be in it to win it. Like, if you're not putting the effort in, it's definitely not going to happen. But if you put in the effort in, it's more likely to happen.
Focus less on what you're getting and having and receiving, and more about what you are doing and being. I sound like Joey. Having and giving and receiving. So yeah, enough of us. We are very excited to have another guest on this week. Catherine, who is our guest of the week?
Our guest this week is the lovely Rebekka. I have worked with Rebekka on a couple of occasions now as a cast member for her. She is currently doing a PhD in English literature and drama, I believe. If I'm wrong, she'll correct me. And she's currently studying Gertrude Stein, but she's also working in education at the moment, teaching. So she has written a letter about what lessons mean to her, and I'm going to read it out. Dear Kat and Amy, lessons can be learned in many different ways. When we think of lessons, we might think life lessons that we gain from certain experiences, lessons from working in certain jobs, gaining skills we take on to our next role. Or the word lesson might bring back memories of school, learning subjects and topics you've long forgotten and no longer used, like algebra and Pythagoras. But in education, we don't just learn facts and theories. The lessons we learn are a development of the self. When I was in high school, I struggled a lot. My school shut down the year I left and was extremely underfunded, and all the teachers we had were supply teachers apart from my maths and RE teachers, who were the only full-time and consistent teachers I had. And from both of them, I learned 2 very different lessons. My RE teacher had engaging sessions and would push us to do our best. She encouraged me to do an AS level at 14, and I passed it. She believed in me when no one else did, and from here, I learned self-belief and to have faith in myself. I was in bottom set for maths, and I struggled and hated the subject. I could never get my times tables or multiplication and division. I knew there was something wrong with me. In one class, I got frustrated and said, there's something wrong with me. I know there is. And the teacher said, no, there isn't. No, there isn't. You're just thick and lazy. We tried to get me tested for learning difficulties in school, but there was no funding, and tried with the NHS, but again, nothing. From that comment, I thought I'd never make anything of myself and wouldn't go anywhere after school. Little did I know I'd go on to university and do my BA, MA and PhD. I had to wait until I had done my GCSEs and was in college until I got diagnosed, and his comment has always stuck with me. I learned how to adapt and be resilient, and have rebelled against his comment ever since. My question for you two is, what lessons did you learn from school, college or uni that weren't actual educational lessons?
I'm so proud of her. Like, I obviously, you know her personally and I don't, but like the fact that like that person said that to her and she went, do you know what, fuck you, I'm gonna go and get a PhD. Like, I love that she literally used that. It could have broken her and it built her up. Like, that she was going to do everything in her power to prove that person wrong. Love her. That's so inspiring. Like, I'm so glad she shared that story. I feel like really like good for you.
And I think from knowing her personally, like I've seen that, and it's just fascinating to talk to her and to know that somebody like that could have brought her down so far that she never, you know, achieved the things that she wanted to. It's so sad to think about, but the fact that she said, no, sod off, I'm going to do it is really amazing.
Put that fire in her belly that sometimes you need to get past a lot of other obstacles.
Yeah, I believe she has dyslexia, and it never held her back from anything that she's ever done. You know, like I say, she's literally writing a PhD as we speak, and you know, it's not a problem. And I think she's kind of learned that actually, yes, it is something that she does have, but it doesn't have to be an issue.
And I think that's so true. But like, I feel like in those educational settings, you are compared to each other, and everyone's a different type of learner. It's like that thing, I can't remember the image, but it's like judging like an animal's, like a species worth on their ability to climb a tree. It's like, well, a dolphin can climb a tree, but a dolphin's extremely intelligent. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that one test that everyone's getting compared on, but like some people are just smart in different ways and they learn in different ways. And I think she's proven that. She's got a PhD, not despite the fact she's got dyslexia, but with that, like she lives with that. And I feel like if people are supporting the right way, and obviously she wasn't at school, which is really crap. She didn't obviously go to a good school that had good funding, but I feel like whether it's in education or in the workplace, like you should never feel like that's a disadvantage because you have some kind of difficulty. Like people should make adjustments for you to be able to thrive in that environment with that. It shouldn't be a problem. It's just something we live with and we work around.
People talk about people living with disabilities and learning difficulties as not being able to do something because of their disability or because of their learning difficulties, but actually it's not their problem, it's the problem of the person who isn't catering for them. But we've made it so that we demonize the disability over the people that are actually not providing. She asked us the question of what did we learn from our educational journey that wasn't necessarily like an educational lesson, more like a life lesson.
I think for me, in terms of university, I think the lessons you learn outside of the classroom can be just as valuable, if not more valuable, than what you learn in a classroom setting. And I feel like some things you just have to learn by doing and not by taking notes on. And I think that's really important to learn, that you don't have to expect to know everything just inside that room. You have to go and live it to know it.
Definitely.
Yeah. What about you?
I think uni taught me to believe in my own ability, because it made me actually realise that I can do it. I have a big problem with not believing in what I do, but then got a first in my degree and was like, maybe I can do that. So yeah, I think that's definitely what education has taught me. I don't still always believe it, but it definitely made me aware of the fact that I don't give myself enough credit for doing well.
Yeah, and that piece of paper is that little reminder, like, oh yeah, first class honours degree. I can
Look
do
at that really expensive piece of paper that I own. That shows that I'm good at things.
But I think like a lot of what you learn is like down to like the teachers or like the mentor roles you have. So like obviously they can like make or break you. Like the teachers you have, obviously in Rebekka's case, like that teacher almost broke her by what they said. But I'm just trying to think like, do you have, I think most people have, but like do you have like a teacher that's maybe just one thing they said or did like has made such a huge impact on you as a person? Yeah. Tell me.
I mean, I'm still very good friends with them now, in fact. And I remember sitting by myself with a very glum face on me, and he came over to me and we were just having a chat, and I was talking really badly about something, and he just turned around to me and said, "Is there ever going to be one day that you give yourself credit for something that you did well?" And I was like, no. But that's always kind of stuck with me whenever I've told myself I can't do something, that, you know, give yourself more credit. I mean, amongst other things, I learned an awful lot from that teacher, but that's one thing, that one comment that really stuck with me, for sure.
Yeah.
What was yours?
Do you know the one thing that's sticking out to me that like that impacted me as a person is probably not like a good thing. Like this wasn't a teacher that had made a good impact on me.
Right.
But something that maybe a lot of like girls in particular have experienced in school. But I had a female teacher who would constantly like penalize me and treat me differently. And there was one day, it was my birthday, I came in with like a new skirt on. This is like really silly. Well, it's not silly, like it impacted me. Like,
yeah,
but she sent me to the rector, the head teacher's office, because my skirt was like an inch shorter than the other girls because I was slightly taller. With the reason that it was distracting, and she made me feel disgusting. And like it was computer science, so it was a mainly male dominated class, so there was a lot of guys in my class, and it was the fact that I was going to be a distraction to them. And I then missed an entire lesson of IT, of computer science, because she deemed that what I was wearing was a distraction to the male classmates. And to that, like that moment is one of the main moments of high school that sticks in my head. That I was like, and I had an argument with her. I've never argued with a teacher in my life. I had an argument with her, and I was like, it's the same skirt all the other girls are wearing. I'm just taller. And it was suddenly, that was the first point in my life. I think it was my 16th birthday.
Yeah.
First time in my life that my body was sexualized. And I felt the male gaze, and I was like, the fuck? Like, I just want to learn programming. It wasn't a problem to me. And she made it a problem.
She was making a big deal about it. She is instilling something in both men and women's heads of something that they should and shouldn't believe.
It just had such an impact on me, like, and I think we need to appreciate our teachers, and they need to understand that like the role they have, because they're shaping like young people and they're shaping their lives. And for me, that made me angry that was even a problem, and it woke me up to like the fact that like that was even a thing. I didn't even think of that. It was my birthday, I was wearing a new skirt, I was happy, and suddenly it was like, I was like, whoa, I'm a sexual object now. Like,
but really funny that it was a woman that made you feel that way.
Yeah, that's what made me even more mad. And you can 100% see how that at 16 has shaped who I am at 22 now. It's just so interesting. But like, we need to have respect for our teachers, because they hold massive, massive power over so many young people and who they become. Big ol' respect to our teachers. Shaped us for good and bad. So thanks. So thank you very much for watching and listening this week, and thank you very much to our lovely guest Rebekka. We love hearing your thoughts and responses, and it really gives us like food for thought as well on these topics. So Catherine, if people want to get in touch and be part of the podcast, how can they do that?
You can do that via the Instagram. We are at Uphill From Here Podcast, or via our email. We're uphillfromherepodcast@gmail.com. Would just like to stress, if you want to be a guest on our podcast and you've been nervous about the idea of sending a video, or you're not confident on camera, just send your letter to us and we can read it out. That's equally as good as having you here.
Yeah, so thank you very much for listening. This has been episode something. We'll see you soon. Bye.
What are you doing?
What's happening?
I can't remember what number it is anymore. The Hunger Games were wrong. The odds will not always be forever in your favour. Bless
you. Gesundheit. Let's do it all again.